What's up, people? I am Kirtan Naik of KNF Coaching, and today I want to talk about this documentary that is doing quite the rounds. Okay, it's called The Game Changers, and that is on Netflix. Now, this movie has sort of gone viral, and many people are talking about it, and there are certain claims that have been made in this documentary, and people have started to believe it blindly. See, I have nothing against vegans or vegetarians. I have clients who are vegetarians, not vegans. It's their choice. It's a lifestyle choice. It's a choice that they've made for ethical reasons, and I choose to continue eating meat because that's my lifestyle. I choose to build my muscle. I choose to stay healthy and fit by eating animal protein. So that's my choice. Now, let me go through some of the claims made in this movie one by one. So stay tuned to find out. First up, let's talk about the producers of the movie. Not all the producers, let's just talk about one guy, James Cameron, who has produced this movie. Now, the one thing that really bugged me was that there is no transparency because he has gone on to produce this movie, The Game Changers, while he is also the owner and the lead investor in this company who are into manufacturing plant-based protein, and on their website they claim that it is for the betterment of the planet, etc. And so if you wanted to make a movie or a documentary telling that people should go and people should resort to eating more and more of plant-based products than animal-based products for the betterment of the planet, betterment of the environment. So that should have been the argument throughout the movie, and not claiming that plant-based protein is superior to animal protein. I will come to those points later on. So there's a whole lot of confusion on why the documentary was made, but one thing is really clear, that this guy wants to push these products to the people. And I've seen a lot of tweets of people who have watched this movie and have been brainwashed and tweeting saying that, oh my god, I've changed my mind about animal protein, I'm gonna switch to plant protein, I'm gonna switch to vegetarianism or veganism. And they're like, oh my god, there's so many health benefits from plant-based food products compared to animal-based food products, I'm done with animal protein, etc., etc. So I think he has achieved what he wanted to achieve, that is brainwash people into thinking that plant protein is superior to animal protein. Now, there is no transparency regarding that. So James Cameron, you cheater. All right. So guys, don't get brainwashed because one person made a documentary on one single agenda. Do your research as much as possible because it is for your health and wellness. Okay, so this point number one was the lack of transparency, that he owned this company and he is the leading investor in this company that manufactures plant-based products. Okay, and there are a few producers in the movie, a few others, especially Pamela Anderson, who is an active member of PETA. So if you want to make a movie against animal cruelty, why not that be just about animal cruelty and not about claiming that plant protein is superior to animal protein? And even Arnold is one of the executive producers, by the way, and he talks about how he's trying to switch from meat to more of plant-based protein, and he still eats meat though. He didn't claim that animal protein is superior to plant protein. Okay, sorry, it's the other way around. He didn't claim that animal protein is inferior to plant protein. He just said that he is switching from animal protein to more of eating plant-based food products. Okay, so that is that. So there is no transparency. Secondly, there is something called as applicability of research. Like, is the research true? Now, you can't apply a research that is done on something and apply to something else altogether. For example, in the movie, James Wills, who's like the major part of the movie, he's narrating the major sections of the movie, and he is talking about how he did a lot of research on plant-based products, plant-based food that is found to help people recover from injury, and because he himself is going through injury, and he's trying to figure out the best diet there is for athletes to come out of injury and to get better and be better than what they were before. And he is using a lot of research that have the term vegetarian, because see, research on plant-based is fairly new, right? They're still undergoing. In fact, the research on so many aspects of nutrition are fairly new, and they are still in their infancy, because it's very difficult to figure it out, because it's a very complex area, nutrition. And he's talking about the research that is dug up, and most of these have the title, most of these have the term vegetarian in the title and the rest of the research body, and they are trying to conclude that plant-based protein is superior to animal protein, and they are best for recovery to come out of injury, etc., etc., by using the research that is being done on vegetarians, which is erroneous and false. So there are a couple of instances in the movie as well where they show the clip of Murray Rose, who's a 4-time gold medalist, an ace swimmer, who in the documentary they say he was vegetarian. Okay, I also found out that he used to drink goat's milk, and when a reporter asked him was he still sticking to the vegetarian diet, and he responds very rigidly, yes. So is he a vegan? Is he a vegetarian? Not sure. Why are you trying to confuse people, Mr. Cameron? Another argument was about the Roman gladiators, where they dug up the bones, they took it to the lab, they cross-sectioned it and put it through a fire test, and they found out that the strontium levels, which makes up for stronger bones, were high. Strontium levels were high in these bones because they were gladiators. Now I have to tell you one thing, okay? Gladiators are not what you have seen in the movies. Okay, history, if you do a bit of research on history, gladiators were nothing but people used for entertainment of the Roman emperors and the Roman high class, and they were fed mostly grains, and they were, again in the movie they say that they were vegetarians. They show a research in which it clearly says that Roman gladiators were vegetarians, and you claim that the strontium levels were high. Again, my argument is that you can't use research done on vegetarians and apply it to people who only eat plants. No way. Second argument is, even if they were vegans and didn't drink milk, no dairy, etc., no cheese, and you just can't use one element of the bone and claim that they had stronger bones because of that one single element. There's so many things that go into making a stronger bone. Okay, there is calcium, your vitamin D, your magnesium levels. Magnesium helps in increasing the availability of vitamin D, which in turn helps in absorption of calcium into the bones. There's phosphorus, there is zinc. So there is so many elements that goes into making stronger bones, even protein. Now, you can't just, those are two things I didn't like about this particular aspect, was that using the research done on vegetarians and applying it to people who are majorly plant eaters, okay, and claiming that they are superior to people who eat meat. And secondly, that you can't say use just the argument of one element in your bone and claim that particular person or that particular demographic to be stronger compared to a different demographic who eat mainly meat. So okay, you can't pick one element. There's so many elements goes into making stronger bones. Now this point is very funny, and I love this point, and I was just looking forward to talk about this. It's the fight between Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz, and how the documentary claims that Nate Diaz had the upper hand because he is a plant eater compared to Conor McGregor, who is a heavy meat eater, and he is very vocal about it. Now, Nate Diaz, I did my research, and the movie doesn't mention anything about it. Nate Diaz isn't a vegan, okay? He is not a vegan athlete, nor is he a vegetarian. He eats fish, he drinks milk, Okay, he only goes into vegan mode 7 days before any fight. Now that means that he has conditioned his system. He is a very superior athlete compared to Conor McGregor, not because he went into a vegan mode 7 days before the fight. It's just that he is getting the benefits of animal-based food rest of the time, and is conditioning his system. His endurance levels are crazy. His cardio training is next level compared to Conor McGregor. So he had the upper hand because of all that, and not because he went plant-based 7 days before the fight. So he is getting the benefits of the animal protein rest of the time. So that is not a fair point, and that is just cheating people into thinking that animal protein is inferior to plant protein. Okay, and there are so many other factors which I will not talk about, which are very technical. Like, Conor McGregor was playing 2 classes above his class, and that's where that's where he got dominated by Nate Diaz. And Nate Diaz is always a better fighter because he is an amazing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu fighter, and that's why he had the upper hand. And let's just say, for argument's sake, Nate Diaz was vegan. Ever since he was born, he was vegan. This movie, this documentary happened a little too early. And the reason why I waited so much to make this video, especially this particular point, is because I was waiting for the fight between Nate Diaz. Okay, I was waiting for this fight between Nate Diaz and Jorge Masvidal. Now, I was really rooting for Jorge Masvidal. Why? Because Jorge Masvidal is a major meat eater like Conor McGregor. Now, I was really hoping that he won, and he actually did. Again, there's a lot of controversy about doctor having pulled him out of the fight because he was bleeding profusely, and he wanted to continue fighting. Doesn't matter. If you look at the statistics of the fight, Jorge had major strikes, a major percentage of strikes compared to Nate Diaz, and eventually he won. So we have to talk about just one aspect, right? His endurance levels. He didn't lack endurance. Jorge, he's a meat eater, and if you look at Jorge Masvidal's Facebook page or Instagram, there are videos of him eating McDonald's. Come on, guys.
My philosophy on dieting is do it right, seek help, just don't read a book and think you can do it, go out there, seek help, pay the extra money, and do it right, Not everybody could eat McDonald's like me and go compete,
I'll take McFlurry, M&M, and let me get a double cheeseburger with large fries.
Okay.
And let me get a Mac double with a Mac chicken.
So this point, I think, is not valid anymore, where you claim that a vegan athlete is superior to an athlete who eats animal protein. So that's that. Okay, now this argument about how the animals are middlemen for plant protein is total nonsense. Why? Because we don't have the same genes. Let me not talk about genetics. So over millions of years, we have turned off a few genes because of so many choices our ancestors made, and some have gone dormant, and they don't switch on no matter what we eat, no matter what we do, because they're just lying there dormant. Okay, like for example, there is this particular gene that used to be very active, that used to get switched on whenever we ate grains. I'm talking about millions of years ago, and that gene was able to convert, when it was turned on, it used to be able to convert sugar coming from grains into vitamin C. Plants can do that. Most animals can do that, except for our nearest relatives, which are the primates. Apes can't do that, just like us, because this particular gene over the years has been switched off, and that's the reason, and that's at the end of the production line, and at the end that particular gene doesn't get switched off at the end of the sugar digestion, and just because that gene doesn't turn on, vitamin C can't be produced or synthesized from sugar anymore. That is just one example. So same, I'm pretty sure, holds the true for amino acids. And the amount of amino acids in a plant source, if you consider the same amount, is very less compared to the essential amino acids coming from animal source. So we have to look at the efficiency as well, which means we have to eat more plant-based food to get the same amount of amino acids compared to the limited amount of animal protein that you need to be eating to get the same amount of essential amino acids. And also, we don't digest protein the same way. Animals are big and huge because they have the genetics for it, which has evolved for many years. They have a different kind of a digestive system, and we don't have that kind of a digestive system. So we have to consider all these things together before making a stupid argument, okay, such as animals are the middlemen for plant protein. Okay, so that's total nonsense. And I also have to talk about, when I talk about this argument about the claim that animals are middlemen for plant protein, we also have to talk about the bioavailability of the essential amino acids that are needed by the body to build muscles or various other functions of amino acids in the body. The bioavailability, okay, and the bioavailability of amino acids coming from plant sources are potentially less because the number of amino acids coming in just one serving is very less. So, and when we talk about eating animal protein, the amount of amino acids per serving is way more compared to the plant protein, which essentially means that there is more bioavailable amino acids when we are done digesting that animal protein source. So that is about bioavailability. And also you should know that there are certain phytonutrients, okay, in the plant-based food that come in the way of absorption of certain amino acids needed to build muscle and various other amino acid functions. So when you say that plant protein is superior, and at the same time there are these phytonutrients coming from the same plant source which is sort of working anti and is coming in the way of absorption of these amino acids, then I think you should think twice about claiming that plant protein is superior to animal protein. There is a section in the movie in which they choose 3 athletes and they choose to do an experiment on them. They give 2 athletes plant-based food and 1 athlete animal-based food, and they draw blood postprandial and after a few hours and put on a centrifuge and compare the blood plasma of these athletes. Now they show that the blood plasma of the athlete who consumed non-vegetarian, that is animal protein, was viscous and thicker compared to the blood plasma of athletes who ate plant-based food. This, I think, is not a fair comparison. Why? The blood plasma viscosity is not just dependent on protein coming from plant or an animal, plant or animal source. Okay, it's not just dependent on one element. There's so many elements that go into making up the viscosity of the plasma. Your hydration levels leading up to the test, okay, which was not mentioned. The electrolyte levels, your magnesium, potassium, sodium, these things matter a lot to the viscosity of the plasma. So these things were not mentioned. So and you just can't test 3 people and extrapolate it and generalize it to the whole population. Okay, it's not fair. And one more point to note, that the person who ate animal protein ate processed meat. So you just can't give someone processed meat, and when it comes to plant-based, you give them healthy plant-based food and compare. That's not fair. Okay, if you wanted this experiment to be fair, you should have given the person not McDonald's, okay, but or something deep fried and something very organic and cooked in a healthy manner, and then done the comparison. Then you probably would have had a valid argument to make. Now I think this particular section in the movie was total nonsense. See, one thing I have figured out is you can't give, when someone achieves something in athletics, okay, in the field of sports, for these athletic feats, you can't give credit to one aspect. It's an overall thing. You can't just give credit to the food that they eat. Okay, you have to give credit to the hard work that they're doing. And one other important thing that you have to consider is not everyone is born with the same kind of genes. Some people are so lucky. Some of the athletic feats that you've seen, you have to give credit to the genes that they have acquired from their ancestors. For most people, it is more of the hard work that has made them achieve those feats. But there are a select few who are born with exceptional genes, okay, genetics, and they have just struck the genetic lottery. The grandfathers probably had those genes, but they didn't achieve those feats because they didn't work for it. For example, if Usain Bolt's father had done similar kind of training and had similar kind of motivation and had followed similar kind of a diet, then probably he too could have run 100 meters at sub 10 seconds. It's Usain Bolt is because he chose to do it that he has achieved that, and he has struck a genetic lottery, and he's inherited those genes. He's put those genes to work. So when in this documentary they're showing athletes who are able to lift heavy, having been vegan, been plant-based all their life, it's just this argument that I want to make is that they have struck a genetic lottery. If someone else who are plant-based want to try the same thing with the same amount of hard work and the same kind of diet in terms of calories and the kind of food that they're eating, and want to achieve the same feat by lifting, 500 kilos, I don't think it's going to be possible unless you too are lucky enough to have been born with these genes. Okay, so I don't think it is fair to say that just because one person is lifting tremendous amounts of weight just by relying on plant-based food, it means that everyone else can do that. Okay, I'm not just talking about strength, and there's so many arguments about so many interviews that they do of these athletes who have improved their endurance just because after they went plant-based. So that is not a valid argument. I mean, it's just a small pool of people who have gotten the benefits out of it. So you can't just generalize it to the whole population. So this is one thing that I want to tell you, that just don't give credit to one aspect of what makes someone great. Give credit to everything, okay? The food that they eat, and not just about the food you eat, it also about how the body and the genes that you have are helping you to digest and absorb the nutrients from this food and helping you to achieve these feats. Okay, there's a section in the movie in which they gather firefighters and show them statistics about how they're more likely to die from heart attack than while rescuing someone from fire, and they collect their cholesterol, put them on a 6 weeks plant-based diet, and then check the cholesterol again, and they show them how the cholesterol levels are dropped. And there is again no transparency about how, if they have transparency show if they have done anything else which they hadn't been doing before for them to bring the cholesterol down, and if protein, the plant-based food, was the sole reason why the cholesterol levels come down. So there is no transparency there. Maybe if they continue with the same kind of food that they were eating but yet got more active, they could have probably brought down the cholesterol levels down as well. It's been 2 to 3 years that the American Heart Association has come out and said that the cholesterol numbers don't matter as much anymore. There is this one particular protein called the apolipoprotein B. Remember that name. Apolipoprotein B is what matters anymore when you talk about risk factors for heart disease or anything concerning the heart or stroke, etc. When they put together, they collected the samples which had the same HDL numbers, the apolipoprotein B numbers varied, and this is a particular protein. It's like a particle to which cholesterol binds, and this circulates in your blood, and this is what matters for your heart health anymore. So you don't want to have a lot of these circulating in your blood. So that is what they came out and said, that in the next 15 years that a lot many people are going to die of heart attack because of the numbers of apolipoprotein B circulating in your blood. So check that, apolipoprotein B, and that is the test you want to be doing if you want to see if you have the risk factors for heart disease. So in this documentary, there is this comparison of a 3-ounce beef or 3 eggs with a peanut butter sandwich or 1 cup cooked lentils, and they're trying to compare the protein, and they say that a peanut butter sandwich has the same 20 grams of protein as 3 eggs or a 3-ounce beef. This is a really stupid comparison. Okay, it's really silly, because see, for you to get the same 20 grams of protein from peanut butter sandwich, you need to have those extra scoops or extra tablespoons of peanut butter to get those 20 grams of protein as you would get from 3 eggs. Now, the comparison is silly, because when you compare two different food sources for anything, you have to always consider everything else that comes with it. Like, you can't just compare protein, because there's so many other things that come with it. Like, peanut butter sandwich is loaded with sugar, so we're talking about carbohydrates. A gram of carbohydrate is 4 kilocalories, so that makes a lot of difference. So for you to add those extra scoops to get those 20 grams to match the protein that you're getting from eggs, you are also bringing in a lot more calories. So when you're talking about comparison, it's not fair, because with 3 eggs you're roughly getting about 240 calories, and with the peanut butter, those extra scoops and tablespoons for you to get those 20 grams of protein, you are effectively getting 2 to 2.5 times the number of calories compared to those 3 eggs. So it's really not fair. If someone came to you for fat loss and you told them you have to go on a plant-based diet and you gave them, a peanut butter sandwich for them to get 20 grams of protein with those extra scoops and extra calories coming in, close to say 500 calories, they will need to put in those extra efforts to burn those calories. And I also talked about the bioavailability of plant protein, because it's not as effective compared to animal protein. So that's another point. So I don't think it's a really fair comparison. I think it is very silly. So that's it, guys. So this is my take on the movie, the documentary, The Game Changers. And in conclusion, one, there is no transparency regarding the involvement of the producers in the movie, in plant-based businesses, which only goes to show that they have made this movie to push their plant-based food business to people, and they have been fairly successful, because people have started believing that animal-based food is far inferior to plant-based food. Two, most of the claims made in the movie are not backed by scientific research. They are just statements made and some tests being conducted on few people and just generalized it to the whole population. Three, some of the claims are backed by scientific research, but by false research. Like, for example, they say how plant-based people who eat plant-based food are athletes are superior to athletes who eat animal-based food, by using research that is being done on vegetarians. So there is no connection there. Okay. Four, the main thing which I wanted to stress on was the cholesterol. The last point I made was that the cholesterol lipid profile test doesn't matter as much. It is the test wherein you check for your apolipoprotein B that matters anymore. So you want to test for amount of particles of apolipoprotein B circulating in your blood, and that is what is going to decide and tell you your risk factors, how susceptible you are to getting a heart attack, or building risk factors for any form of heart disease. So that's it, guys. Thanks for watching and listening. If you have any doubts, visit my website, which is in the description below, and leave me a message. Thank you.